Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Paddy Gilmore. Paddy runs a fascinating consultancy that helps brands use humour wisely and well in their marketing. He's a man with a story for every occasion, from childhood marketing lessons he's learned from an egg seller who wore a chicken on his head, to unexpected gig writing jokes for UK television legend Bruce Forsyth. He's a firm believer that humour, used correctly, can deliver more than double the ROI for a campaign, and he's here to tell us how.
This episode is brought to you by jobsandadtech.com, the only jobs board dedicated to digital media and the ad tech industry. If you're hiring now, use promo code JWPOD, JWPOD, for a 10% discount on any package. Jobsandadtech.com, it's where ad techers go to find their next role.
Paddy, hello. Great to catch up with you.
Thank you very much. Great to talk to you as well.
Now, let's jump straight in. If I may, I'm going to ask you, what's caught your eye recently in the press?
I heard of a really interesting story during the week. In fact, there was a friend in Brazil emailed me about this story. It's about a Brazilian stand-up by the name of Leo Lynch, Lins, and he has been imprisoned, been sentenced to 8 years and 3 months in prison for his jokes, for telling bigoted, racist, sexist, homophobic jokes. And there's a big debate currently in Brazil about A, is this right? And B, this seems like a lengthy prison term, and so on. I run a humour consultancy. I work with brands to explore how they use humour in their communications. So offence and perceived offence is very, very interesting. And so this story immediately caught my attention. So, yeah.
Tell me, why is it unusual for somebody to be in a country like Brazil put away for saying the wrong things?
It's very interesting. I mean, I was actually speaking to my same friend this morning about this in Brazil. He's actually in London at the moment, and he said one of the reasons is Brazil has a very recent history of slavery. Slavery was only abolished in Brazil in 1888, so it's actually relatively late. This means that social touch points about things like race and gender and racial identity are still very, very raw. So they have a number of laws in place to prevent racism happening, and in the eyes of the legal authorities, they were simply enacting these laws.
Okay. Do you think this is something that's indicative of across the world right now, with people having restrictions on what they're being said? I mean, look what's happening in America. I mean, you can't have the diversity, equality, and inclusive approach, the DEI approach that we've all come to know, love, and respect.
Exactly. Well, this is the kind of the big undercurrent debate, really, which is that, to what extent is it indicative of governments such as in America and Russia and Turkey moving steadily rightward and talking about freedom of speech, but at the same time, when people say things they don't much like, then putting those people behind bars. So it's a big debate.
And it's a cutting line. It's the cutting edge. I mean, Ricky Gervais always talks about the fact that if somebody's not offended, then it's not going to be comedy. And it's Jimmy Carr's sort of approach as well. That's a difficult line for brands and businesses to stand on, though, isn't it?
It's a very, very tricky one. But one of the things I always say to brands, possibly to the point of saying it a bit too much, is a brand is not a stand-up. When I go along to IKEA, I go along to IKEA to buy a wardrobe or a bed. I don't go along to IKEA for laughs. However, when I see a funny ad for IKEA, that over time, as the months and years roll by, that implants IKEA into my mind. So when I next need a bed, I'll consider IKEA, that kind of thing. But I don't see brands as being stand-ups. And I think when brands try and perceive themselves as inherently stand-ups, that can be a very much a misstep.
Which leads us nicely into the next question I want to put your way is, how do you, and what you're doing and what you've already described, help businesses, help people get ripped off less?
Well, what I do is fundamentally, so I help brands to explore humour and to use it wisely and well. Typically, that's within their marketing campaigns. The main statistic which I use, there was a survey done in 2022 looking at the IPA data bank, and they looked at over 1,500 ad campaigns, and they discovered that using humour brings in over 100% more ROI compared to non-humorous campaigns. About that. So if your ROI is, say, 10 million when you use humour, all things being equal, you can make 20 million. So to answer your question, I see my way of kind of not ensuring brands are ripped off by saying, okay, if you use this tool, you'll get more bang for your buck. You don't want to waste your money. You want to spend your money wisely. All businesses do. And so if you use this tool well and intelligently, you can get really good rewards on the back of it.
I like the it reminds me of the talk which I won't be going to at the Cannes Festival, just because I haven't got a ticket to the main event. But the Adam Morgan is going to be speaking about the extraordinary cost of dull, which I think is a wonderful kind of flip side to what you're saying is looking at how you position the benefits of using humor within communications. Is that the key part? Is it just within the communications, or is it within the whole ethos and the living embodiment of the brand that it should be there?
Well, I think a lot depends on all the different brand touch points. I mean, a great example of this is Virgin Trains, when they had those lovely salt and pepper shakers, and on the back, it was on the underside, it was printed "Stolen from Virgin Trains." Now, in a way, that's a product feature. That is actually a part of a Virgin train, but it's also a marketing message at the same time. So I think the very intelligent brands will use humor and wit and integrate it into different parts of the whole brand experience.
It reminds me of a cafe in Waterloo that used to have little sugar sachets that just had in little handwriting things like "sprinkle on people's shoulders," and it was just and it was their way of surprising and delighting. And I used to use that as expression. How does your business surprise and delight other people, especially when you're sending out boring bloody emails to people saying, "Hello, I'm here. Hello, I'm here. Hello, I'm here," and then you actually just surprise and delight.
I surprisingly delight. I always buy clients Montezuma chocolates after a commission. I basically give them a choice. They can have wine or chocolates. And if wine, I'd like to know if it's red or white, and chocolates likewise, milk or dark. I always do that. I often illustrate my business. I talk about my business by using a jigsaw, a 9-piece jigsaw. And so I lay out each of the pieces and show how my business fits together. It's just 9 pieces, super quick, super easy. And
That's a lovely format. That's a lovely format because it's something that if you can explain your business into 9 chunks and then each of those you can talk about ad infinitum or in one sentence, then that makes it so much more interesting than the PowerPoint presentation of 9 slides.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. And I think also, I mean, one of the things I find, I don't know if you find this, James, but I find that we're living in an age in which there's a lot of talk, a lot of people pitching and talking and speech. And I find that when I meet people, often I want to show as well as tell. And I like to just show. And when I was a kid, I loved jigsaws, and I just thought, that'd be a nice thing to do. So I've got a lovely engraved wooden jigsaw, which I often use.
Nice. The business itself has been going a couple of years now.
3 years. 3 years. Yeah.
And when we met, it was at WPP Stream. Where did you get in touch with the people from Stream? How did you hear about that? And because it's one of those things that I think more people should be going to.
Sure. Yeah. I met Ella Kieran, who's a senior person at WPP, as you know. I met her several years ago, and we linked up on LinkedIn. To be honest, I've forgotten where and how we met. But I just happened to, I sent her my deck about 3 years ago. And she said, this is really interesting. It'd be great to get you into WPP to do a talk. So I did that talk, and that went well. And then on the back of it, she said, look, we do this thing in Greece every October. Would you be interested in coming along? I said, that'd be great. So it's almost like a kind of one thing's led to another. I found it a fascinating, 2 or 3 days. I thought it was stimulating. It was just great. It's brilliant. Yeah, really, really useful.
Yeah, I went to one 12 years ago in Phuket. So it's when I joined WPP again this time around, the first thing I did was reach out to Ella saying, "Hello, me again."
Yeah.
So I can be really helpful. I'll do anything. Now, the next part of this section is called High Five. What I throw at you a question is, I'd love to just hear what you've got to say about your hero, who and why.
My hero. So I grew up in a small town in North Devon called Bideford, and my hero is a man. I don't know his name. I never will know his name. He was the local egg seller, and you could recognize him because he stood on one street at the end of one alleyway, and he had like a tea cozy on his head in the shape of a chicken. It was a chicken on his head. And I remember my mum saying to me when I was about 11, 12 years old, and I'd go into town and get some shopping or help her out. She would say, look for the man with the egg, with a chicken tea cozy on his head. And it was a lovely lesson in marketing, in just recognizing something very simple. And he was known for just selling really good quality eggs, being very friendly, being a very nice person to buy eggs from. So in a weird way, that's led me into my job now, just buying eggs from that guy.
Do you know what? We're both bald. We both could do with the egg cozy at certain times.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking.
Tea cozy. I wonder how System One would rate that if they could measure the consistency over the years of both the marketing and the product.
Yes.
All right. So the next question is your best decision.
I would have to say opening my consultancy, working in the field I'm working in, working with clients like Harley Davidson, HSBC, Epson, lots of different categories. It doesn't feel like work. And I really feel so privileged and honored. And that I don't use those words often, but I really do feel honored.
Decision then.
My worst decision was going back probably about 10, 15 years. I decided to have a little break from advertising and I wanted to do something completely different. So one summer I got myself a job in a wine shop and I got it into my head that I'd become a wine expert and I would take all the exams and become a sommelier and what have you. And I wasn't very good at it. And to this day, I know what kind of wines I like, but as a taster, I just didn't have the palate. And so for one summer, I kind of flirted with it. Nah, it wasn't to be.
That's very funny. Talking of funny, what is your funniest moment?
My funniest moment is my brother got married, I think about 2008 or something. And one of the guys in the wedding party was a producer on Strictly Come Dancing. And he wanted someone to write Bruce Forsyth's jokes for one of the episodes. And he heard the speech that I wrote, you see. And he said, afterwards, he called me up and he said, look, would you like to write for Bruce Forsyth? And I was like, whoa. So it was funny in the sense that I had like a little mini career as a comedy writer. And it was also funny because I just wasn't expecting that. So
you are Brucey's speechwriter.
I wrote the gags for Bruce and Tess Daly in Strictly Come Dancing 2008. And even if that's the only thing left on my CV at the end of my life, I'll be okay with that.
That's very good. All right, one more person. I'm going to ask you to recommend one more person for me to speak to on the podcast. And of course, to come on this, you have to have had dinner at one of the dinners.
Sure. I thought about this and I've actually spoken to her during the week and she said she's more than happy to take part. There's a good friend of mine called Deborah Rock and she's black. And during the Black Lives Matter demonstrations in the summer of 2020 after the murder of George Floyd, I remember speaking to her about her experiences growing up in East London and about race and about white privilege and so forth. And what I liked about her is she was extraordinarily articulate. And I just thought this is so interesting what she's saying here. In her day job, she works for a educational charity. And yeah, just really, really intelligent, articulate, and personally, I found her a really, phenomenal person to guide me as a white man through those very kind of strange months.
It has been a strange time and guidance when we're sitting on all sorts of different privileges for who we've been, some of us.
Exactly.
To open our eyes to that is such a valuable thing.
Yeah.
Paddy, thanks so much for coming on to this. Really great to catch up with you again over dinner recently and on this, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you, James. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.